We need to get these people organized. Anybody that can fight should.
First thing it did was hit me, and I thought I was going to die.
We'll name the casino Big Vinny's.
It gets pretty epic.
I'm going to decapitate another.
Drinks are on me. You guys have a good night.
All creatures, furry, adorable.
And I kept hitting it until it died.
I did it.
Give me your hand, Vincent.
I'm a legendary storyteller. Right?
I'll give him a palm.
I just need my sword.
I'm free. I'm final.
Oh my god, it's a giant weird. I'm sure you guys know about all
I went to go find your
Lug murdered. I tried to stab him.
You realize you may have killed the only witness.
Thanks, Dalmore was your master.
We all let our sword do the talking for us every once in a while, I guess.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 50th episode of RollPlay Swan Song. I'm JP McDaniel, joined by the rest of the crew. Geoff, talk to me about Seattle. Or, that's where you were, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
No,
Got
just
it.
tell us about Seattle, the city. We don't.
In general, maybe just talk about Seattle. Whoa,
How do you feel about Seattle?
That is some weird... Keep talking. I'm probably going to freeze XSplit. I'll be right back. I'm going
Nice.
down below.
Emerald City Comic Con was really fun. It's part of the Comic Con chain. A bunch of people go to Seattle. I got to interview John Bernthal, who's Shane, and Punisher on the Netflix shows. Well, no, Walking Dead's on Netflix, but he was intense but cool, and just stuff like that. Got to hang out with Future Man Gaming.
Hold on, you got to interview the Punisher?
Yeah, dude.
Did you ask him about that?
Did I ask him about Punisher? Yeah, he's mega intense, and he's like kind of blowing
skip
up right
over
now.
that shit while I'm away, man. He's really intense in person as well.
Well, no, he's really intense and blowing up right now. So he was not super happy to be on the Twitch stage. He was like very much so giving off the vibe of like, who the fuck signed me up for this kind of thing.
That makes sense.
And he sits there, and the first thing he says, he takes the headphones and he goes, "These are the shittiest fucking headsets I've ever seen in my life. They're Sennheisers." And that was the first thing he says, and it was before the camera starts rolling. I was like, "Wow, this is going to be a really good interview."
How did you respond to that? Did you make a joke? What did you? Did you do the Geoff thing where you made a joke? Okay, good.
Throughout the whole interview, I was like, "Man, I'm going to get these boxed up for you. We got to get you to take one of these home. You seem to like it." And he's like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Can't wait." But the best part was the other chick that was leading the interview. She was kind of nervous because he's just giving off all this intense fucking energy. And she's just like asking questions, and he's just kind of like 3-word answering her and then staring at her, and she's just dying in the water. And she eventually is like, "I mean, are you a method actor? Like, did you, I don't know, like in your head, did you kill your family to get ready for the Punisher role?" And she looks at her, and he's like, he's not even joking at all. He's just like, "That's not funny at all." He just looks at her. And she
Is this for real?
Oh yeah, dude. And I'm over there on the other side of him, like, this is it. He's gonna stand up and walk off this fucking stage. Like, he's gonna be gone.
over for good. Man, I can't get over people that take themselves that seriously.
Oh, that's awesome.
It was a weird experience because a lot of these guys, getting away even from John Bernthal, is probably the biggest celeb of all of them. They have entourages. They have security.
Oh yeah.
The chick that plays the evil queen on Once Upon a Time, or whatever that show on. it's
On ABC?
kind of a big deal show. There's a lot of people there.
Did you interview her?
No, I was on for that one, but I was like,
Can I throw something out there? Just, by comparison, I'm sure you probably heard this story a million times, Geoff, but John Rhys Davies was on our stage, and he's been around for a long time. And Anna interviewed him, and basically he fell in love with her and left the stage and recited her like some sort of sonnet in the green room. And I was like,
as one would.
That's why he was in the hospital for 6 months.
I guess like it's the contrast in experience that I'm really just laughing about. I cannot believe. Oh,
I mean, it would be pretty
Well,
good.
no,
if the guy
I-
that played the
You
Punisher.
guys aren't letting me finish. That wasn't the whole experience. That was just a weird one with him. Like I actually had a really good time with Will Friedle, who plays Eric on Boy Meets World.
Nice.
Dante
The
Bosco,
old Eric?
who plays Rufio, is absolutely incredible.
I heard he was a total baller.
He was amazing. Another piece of shit was the Green Ranger. Jesus fucking Christ. Like,
Really?
he thought I don't know, maybe he's just having a bad day. It's like one of those things where, you're
Wait,
going to
like
judge them off of your experience, but maybe it literally was just a bad
To
day.
be fair, I'm pretty sure that guy hasn't had a good day since 1996.
Are you talking about Tommy, the original Green Ranger?
Yeah.
Oh.
That's what I'm saying.
What does he do now?
That's what I've heard.
Like dojo, like he does martial arts stuff. He the comic, I guess, is doing really well. And he's a part of that or something.
Oh,
I don't
I
know.
didn't know that.
He just was another guy that took himself mega serious, and it was just like, it's like, yo, man, like Green Ranger is kind of the pinnacle of your life, and it wasn't that big of a deal. Yeah. He was on the stage, he's just like, yeah, man, every day someone tells me I'm their hero, and it's just like that's what gets me up in the morning, and I'm like, what in the fuck? Like, who says that?
It's the
Nobody
same
asked
person every day.
It's the-
though.
yeah, it's the-
it's
that
not
one
different
guy.
people. It's one guy.
It was
It's a
weird.
guy,
Like,
man.
nobody asked him, like, does anyone call you a hero every day? He just that was like his canned response. He's just gonna pipe that out there. That was weird, but those are the weird ones. It was mostly overwhelmingly awesome. Like, there's just really, like, we had these artists every day, and it's like, what do you do? And they're like, oh, I'm an artist for Marvel. Oh, okay, you're like somebody's god right now. And he's like, what are you working on? And they're like, oh, well, I just took over the Green Lantern, so I'm just going to be working on that comic.
Wait, do you know like names of the artists? Do you remember any of them?
No, I don't know names of these artist people. No.
Okay.
But they're a big deal, and it was just really
Yeah,
cool.
my
to
brother would probably love to hear you talk about that, or at least watch the interviews. He's a huge.
That's the whole thing right there. That like, you're somebody's hero right now. You know that? Oh, what was their name? I don't know. Who knows? Who knows these things?
They're not my hero. They're somebody
Comic
else.
book artist.
Well, that's probably what this guy is
saying.
saying. Like, he's like, yeah, I met some guy. He he played some StarCraft at one point, and
StarCraft guy.
interviews, and he was like, yeah, sometimes I wake up and people tell me that I'm their hero, and other times they come into my chat and tell me that I could play StarCraft 10 times better than I could, and
It's true.
I think there's a troll there. I'm not sure where, but I'm not sure if
Steven
I'm.
tried. Steven
I'm
tried.
actually trolling chat and forgiving you for playing StarCraft.
Okay.
He fumbled. He did a Higgins and fumbled on the words a little bit, but it's okay.
Yeah, I was confused.
It's all right.
But if you can watch the VODs, you can watch the interviews on the Twitch stream itself, and the absolute MVP all stars like Will Friedle, who plays Eric on Boy Meets World, and the other
Does he
chick's
still
name
have
is
long hair?
No.
So I remember in like the '90s when he had long hair. I guess that was the trend back then, though. The Dawson trend, I like to call it.
20 years ago.
Yeah.
He does a whole bunch of shit. He's the other voice with the chick for Kim Impossible, which is, I don't know, some big cartoon on Disney or something. They got fucking real on stage, which I really respected. They were talking about how hard it is to be an actor, like a mid-tier actor in LA. Whereas we asked those kind of questions of a lot of them, and they were just like, oh, every day it's tough, but we're so lucky. And it's like, oh, okay, you don't want to talk about it's fine. But hey, they got into it, man. It was pretty cool.
Are any
Other
of
than
I'm
that-
sure people will ask, are any of these VODs like backlogged somewhere? Are they on twitch.tv/Twitch?
I guess you would just have to go to the Twitch stream and look up those days.
Yeah,
It's
they're probably on /Twitch.
not
Gotcha.
super well partitioned,
Gotcha.
but a couple of them are pretty awesome. And the other one that was funny too is this is one of the first times I ever got really geeked out about someone being a celeb, but I got to interview and play Call of Duty with, commentate him, Richard Sherman and Bobby Wagner, who are two Seahawk players, and they're big deals. They came with a big entourage and shit too. And I mean, I say that, and there's like this negative connotation. Like, I get it, especially in Seattle, they're gonna get mobbed by a ton of people. It was kind of sad because they're like big deals to me, but they were like, I'm doing an activation. Let's get through. Like, what time is it? Let's get the fuck out of here. This sucks ass, you know. And like, I get it because they have to do that all the time, and they're just getting mobbed by people. But I didn't even take a picture with them. I didn't shake. You know, I just kind of was on stage with them because they would just walk out and so be like, Richard, you know, just like yelling at him, and he just doesn't fucking look at him because he probably gets yelled Richard all the time. But they're cool on stage, and these. Call of Duty is a funny game to play with them because they're like okay. You can tell they play sometimes, but the kids that fucking dominate that game are like 11 years old. So this Ethan kid was just mowing clowns over, and then we were like, "Hey, you know, how's Richard Sherman on your team?" He's like, "Well, I probably could do this by myself." Like, what?
Wow.
Richard Sherman's like,
I love that kid.
yeah, he's like Richard Sherman as a kid, basically. So he's just like, "All right, I see how it is."
Damn.
It was awesome.
Sounds like a fun weekend, man.
It's a fun thing to do. It's
I gotta watch that John Barrett.
I mean, did you have anyone come off of that stage and be like, oh, wow, that was a lot more fun than I thought it would be?
Absolutely.
Okay, good. Because those were the segments I loved where people were like, oh, we can get into this. This isn't your normal, like, fucking stupid press thing where I sit down and get asked the same 5 questions I get asked all the time.
Pretty much, it was only John Bernthal and the Green Ranger that had that attitude.
Well,
and John Bernthal can kind of do that. The Green Ranger, it's like, calm your tits. You're like 15 years out of relevancy. Like, just be excited.
You used to have a fucking ponytail. Shut up.
He still does.
So
Oh, he still does.
And he had
There's no use
like
to it,
a
dog.
bandana around, leather jacket, leather pants. He was like,
Trapped in the 90s.
God, he was pretty fucking cool, man. And it's okay. It's good to have confidence, but it was just weird because it was like super celeb confidence. It was like, he's like, how long we doing this shit? All right. Whatever. And I'm like, fuck, dude, you're the Green Ranger. Like, nobody fucking cares. Like, all your fans became 30-year-olds and pretended not to like you anymore because it's embarrassing. Like,
90s karate guy is a hard thing to be. That's a tough.
I wonder
lineage.
what like the Blue Ranger is up to right now. Like, what do you think that guy's doing?
He's a producer now. I actually read there was an interview with him on some website because apparently the like directors and like the whole crew of the original show were like super awful to him because he's gay, and they were like just like treated him like shit the whole time. So he quit. But he's done a bunch of like reality TV producing now, and he just did this interview recently where he was like, "Yeah, it was hell, but you know, I'm a grown up. I'm doing stuff now. I don't need to be famous anymore.
I don't have
That's
to go.
the right. That's the good attitude.
I don't have to go to karate practice every day."
Sell my autograph for $5. And
Exactly. Yeah.
He
The
sounds
guy
like
was
he's turned out
amazing.
right.
Yeah.
and
know-
he's probably the biggest of all of them. Is Sean Atkin, actually, the guy that played Rudy. He was just a depository of positivity. It just came out just like sprinkling positivity everywhere, and like didn't take himself too serious.
he actually asked to come back, Jeff.
Yeah,
Like, he's awesome. He's totally awesome.
he's amazing. And it's I had a kind of similar experience to music where like I like bands, but when I see them live and they're really good, all of a sudden I hit that next level of like, oh, I'm a fan. I fucking love you guys. Like, I really support this. It was the same with these guys. Like, I wasn't a Rufio fan. I'm not a I watched Boy Meets World, but not really. Like, it's like Anna's religion. She loves the shit out of it. But after meeting these people and how respectful, awesome, and just how good ambassadors they were, I'm like, well, okay, I'm your fan now. Like, I follow them on Twitter. I'm like, I'm into their stuff. I'm checking out the other things they do, and I support them. It's because they're such good people.
100%.
I think that there's like kind of two kinds of celebrities, right? There's celebrities who got famous because of a thing that they did, and then that's it. And there's celebrities who are famous because the things they do are good, right? Like, and you can quickly tell them, I mean, there's your example, right? Like someone who maybe hasn't done a ton of stuff, but the stuff they did is really good. It's like Daniel Day-Lewis has been in like 11 movies or something, right? And it's like, you just don't do a bunch of shit and just do stuff you care about and you're passionate about and you're going to be good at it, right? Or you got famous because of one thing and then everything else you did was garbage because you're not actually that good at what you do.
I do want to say, though, so I have no defense for the Green Ranger. That guy, I don't know. Again, maybe it's a bad day. John Bernthal was mega intense, but he also, like, I did ask him a few questions that he took. He didn't just like shoot it down and like not give a fuck. I asked him about, do you think you're the best Punisher? And he gave this really awesome answer about how in a 13-hour season, it's much easier to portray the ups and downs of a character and the depth of them, and it's just much more of a fair take on a character as opposed to 2-hour formats in an action movie.
Yeah.
I was like blown away by that. And then he also talked about how important the Punisher is to the military people in service, and how many. And then I checked his Twitter, and he gets messages. He gets like 100 messages a day from people who are like, "Yo, I'm in Afghanistan right now. One of my buddies just died, but I just want you to know we wear the Punisher, and you're like you're making us proud." And he's just like, and he responds to every one of them. So he's not a bad guy. He just was obviously intense. He gave some good answers. It's a pretty good interview. But that moment, if you want to see a person in the crosshairs of like the devil's 6-shooter, man, that was. And she's like, "Did you kill your family to get ready for the role?" And he's like, "That's not funny."
That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, that's a little crazy
terrible.
to ask.
There's no defense for her. That was.
Jesus.
I've done that before in my life, so I know what it's like.
Yeah, so have I, but it's like, fuck, that's really bad. Like,
you got to pick up on the vibe of the guy. Like, the guy's not up there. Oh, okay. Oh, by the way, one of the best interviews. Getting a little bit off topic, but the guy that plays Handsome Jack and he does a whole bunch of other.
Oh
shit.
yeah, and Once Upon a Time, he's cool.
My God, he came up, and before the interview even turns on, he looks at me, and he takes his hand, he jabs it into my inner thigh and starts rubbing it like up and down. And he's like, "You ready for this?" And I was like, "Holy fuck!" He was off the chain, hilarious the whole time. He was so funny.
Yeah.
He took off O'Kadrian's shoe at one point, just threw it in the audience, like, "Go get your shoes." Like, "I don't even want it." And then, like, every time I asked a question, he like pretended to punch me. He was like, "Shut up! I don't want to." Like, "I'm just kidding. I love you." And I'd be like, "Your eyes are beautiful." And he goes, "Really?"
He was just having fun with
the
it.
audience. Oh, I thought he was drunk or high or something, but I don't think so. I think that's just his energy, man. He was so funny. Yeah. He's like, I almost did the voice for the what's his name in Archer in Archer. Like,
hold on,
wow, that's awesome.
The Archer.
Can we stop a second? Then what's his name to the main character in the show Archer? That's awesome.
That's true.
He did a couple other things too. I can't remember what he did, but he's like a mid-level guy, but he was hilarity in a ball. He was just so awesome. There's a couple cool ones. If you can check out the VODs, you should do that. You should check out those.
There you go. I definitely want to watch. I want to watch the John Barenthal and the one you just mentioned. Whatever the actor's name is for Jack on. It's Jack from Once Upon a Time, right? That's what you're.
No,
talking
it's Handsome Jack from Borderlands.
Oh, from Borderlands. Oh, okay. I got you. All right. No, I'm not interested.
He might actually play Higgins when they do the Swan Song movie. Man, he's like Damien Clark. Yeah, I think that's his name.
Okay.
He is fucking incredible. He's a really funny, awesome guy.
Yeah,
there you go. Wheat, what about you? Who have you interviewed in the past weekend?
No one, actually. So thanks, Geoff, for holding on. I did actually. I interviewed someone. I interviewed Rich Shadyac, who is the CEO of St. Jude.
Oh yeah, I watched a little bit of that.
Hospital, and ALSAC, which is kind of the fundraising side of it. And I got to tell you guys, like, that shit is a kind of fucking amazing experience. Like, it is, in terms of, what they do and the story behind St. Jude's and how it was built. And honestly, like, it's pretty, like, you go there and that's some touching shit. Like, you don't walk away from there going like, that was neat. You go away going like, damn, like, they're actually fucking, like, just affecting people's lives in the best way possible. So it's then even better just to go like, it's really great to see that, the Twitch community and broadcasters and audience gets behind it. To that point, that was one of the questions I asked them is I said, like, there's so many different types of fundraising. You guys do online stuff. You do, schools get involved and they have races and, there's so many things. But I'd like to know how you felt when you got the report that a bunch of guys and gals online basically raised $2 million. And
wow.
He had this amazing, sort of answer about, and he threw out some crazy stats that even I was like, damn, dude, he actually cared about it so much. But he went into these stats about, like, it was actually one of the, largest campaigns over this short amount of time. And he said this, they've driven more impressions than any other campaign, with the exception of the one that St. Jude does annually that they've done for like 20 years in November. And he goes, that's powerful. And he go, we want to support that in every way. So it was
crazy.
really awesome. It's really comforting to also talk to like a CEO and a president who you can tell, like, holy shit, this guy's as passionate as I am. Like,
Yeah.
you know, if you get him started about healthcare and what, you know, families deserve, like, he'll start yelling like I do. And I like that. And so I was really impressed with the whole thing. It's really quite awesome. And the folks at St. Jude are amazing. So
Did you get to see the tour of the proton laser or whatever? You know what I'm talking about?
we no, I didn't.
Proton laser.
Someone told me that one of the things that St. Jude had cost them, like, I don't know, some astronomical $1 million number, and they have it's a proton laser that goes down like 6 stories in this building, and it takes up like 3 rooms on a fucking floor on each level.
My God.
And it's targeted so they can actually target the tumors instead of just being like, we're going to target your entire brain and we're going to target this exact tumor and that's it. And the kids have to sit there for like 6 hours at a time, but it's so targeted and so precise that like there's nothing. It's almost like nothing's bad is happening to them from this.
That's often the problem with like cancer treatment, especially, right? Where they're just like, well, with the equipment we have, we're just going to flood your whole body with bad shit. And then when the cancer dies, hopefully you will not also die.
Yeah.
So that kind of equipment is so important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They just said it was crazy though. So
It was pretty amazing. Yeah, it's pretty great. Seeing the whole campus is awesome. So that was great. And then other than that, just real quickly, is I finally got to watch The Hateful Eight.
I still haven't seen it yet.
Okay.
Same JP.
Haven't seen either.
Okay.
Is it good?
What? Really?
We did like a Swan Song movie night.
Yeah, I
You haven't
felt
seen it yet? It's so
horrible for
good.
not having
Is it
seen
that
it.
good?
I've had many opportunities and I passed over.
Okay, so I went and saw it in the theater for one of
Yeah.
the like special film only things with the like
Sure.
70 millimeter
Yeah.
giant ass fucking panoramas and maybe I gotta watch it again in a not environment like that, because you know in those kinds of viewings it's like everyone who's there is a huge film dork and everyone's really excited
See
to be
that? Yeah. Yeah.
and they're like, ooh, film grain, applaud, you know, like
Yeah.
so maybe, but I really enjoyed it. I thought it was good.
I mean, we watched basically the you know, formatted for television 70 millimeter
Sure.
shot, you know, and you're right, absolutely, as like a film nerd, to be like, oh, that shot is really hard because it goes all the way to the ground and all the way to the ceiling. Like, what kind of lens are they possibly using to do that? Because they don't look deformed at all. And there is like a level of that in that movie that's kind of crazy. Like, people just see like it's snow and it takes.
Yeah, I was gonna say the opening snowscape shot of like the horse coming, and it takes like fucking 10 whole minutes for it to cross the frame, and it's like the big Montana background stuff. Like, yeah, I guess I wonder if it's a good movie or if it's just like a really like quintessentially filmic movie.
Quentin Tarantino is like, he is, in my opinion, a master at one thing, and that is dialogue and storytelling. And he also, on top of that, happens to be, did I say one thing?
Yeah.
It's okay.
I meant
all
a
right.
couple things, right? Dialogue
good.
and storytelling in that dialogue. And on top of that, he happens to be like such that film nerd that you're talking about, that he himself is an artist when it comes to film. So, you know, each of his films is sort of an art project in one way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
But really, where it always comes down to like, this is why he is God tier, is because he, you know, creates.
He's an auteur. He's an auteur for sure. But with Tarantino's movies, Hateful Eight especially, I kind of feel like there's sort of two things that make me feel kind of weird. Like, one, like that intense devotion to film, and the fact that every movie, like watching his movies, is a bit like walking in on somebody jerking off. You're like, oh, okay, this is really personal, and I shouldn't have seen that. Like, you can. There are moments in those films where you're like, okay, you're just doing this so that you can say you made a movie on 70 millimeter and did these shots with these panoramas,
Right.
Sure.
whatever.
Right.
And I feel like, and maybe this is just Hateful Eight, but I felt a little bit of this in Django too, where Tarantino comes across to me as one of those people who put stuff in his movies so that later when people are like, you know, that was kind of not okay for you to put in your movie, he can be like, I got a black friend. Sam, tell him we're friends. That's my black friend, Sam Jackson. Yeah. Like there's a sequence in Hateful Eight where I was like, ugh, a white guy wrote this. This is weird.
Yeah.
But this was one of his more criticized movies where some people were just kind of like, I didn't see it, so you can tell me about it. But I guess there's just a bunch of sequences where they're just like, you're kind of just doing that to do that, right? Like you're just
I mean, I don't know. He creates, he's sort of like he puts it in these time periods, and I mean, like the characters are all so great. I don't know. Like there's a couple of characters where I'm literally like, I mean, for example, when you watch a JP, like how substantial is Michael Madsen, right? But he's like in the whole movie. But how like think about anyway.
Okay.
So there's a few things like that. I have to the conclusion of my story is that obviously is classics, Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction and True Romance in my opinion are great. But I happened to then go back and watch Django Unchained.
I've still never seen that.
Dude, I gotta tell you, that fucking movie is so goddamn good.
That's what my roommate watched it like a month ago, and he's like, "That was a really good movie." I was like,
It has one of my favorite themes in fiction in general, and that's the comeuppance of someone who like buys into some unfair authority and then gets punished as fuck for it. Like someone who like sides with the bad guys and then later gets what they deserve. Oh, I love it. It's so satisfying, and that comes through in that movie in a big way.
There you go. Yeah, I need to watch that.
Yeah, you should definitely watch that one.
Adam, what have you been up to?
Playing some Dark Souls. A little Dark Souls.
Are you as bad as Sam at Dark Souls?
No, I checked in. I checked in on his stream yesterday. I think I was at like 15 deaths where he was, and he had 36. So
he was approaching 100 today. So
oh boy, oh poor guy.
He's playing He's playing a bow build though, which is not
tricky,
the easiest thing. He has no armor and he has a dagger as his main weapon, so he's kind of setting himself up for failure.
I played about 6 hours yesterday, another 5 or 6 today, and I did that thing with Dark Souls where as soon as I finished playing last night, I was like, I should just reroll.
Yeah,
I should just start over. I got a better idea now, but I'm sticking with it. I'm going like strength pyromancy, and I just finished the like witch boss with the orb thing.
The big person with the big hat.
Nah, she's a witch, and she like splits into a bunch of. I'm trying to like not spoil this. It's the one at the end of the. Kind of swamp area
no, I know
crabs.
exactly. Okay.
So
That's a girl. I don't see. The thing with that game is I've played it all in Japanese. So one, I don't know what anything's called.
Yeah.
And two, I don't know if that person's a female or not because everything's.
You did a great job. Though. I watched you play it Japanese, and I'm like, how? I'm like, everyone must be smarter than me because I would have given up on this.
Well, I've played so many Dark Souls games, so I can pick up on things quick without having to read
I'm
them.
having that problem too, where shit is all blurring together. Where I can't remember if something was from Dark Souls 1 or Dark Souls 2, and I'm like, wait, am I supposed to? And then, but I like the new mechanics in it. I like the kindling thing. It's still early on in the game enough that PvP feels like reasonably balanced. That it's not just like.
Have you gotten the PvP bug yet?
No, we did get a bug where a boss wouldn't die though. Me and some other randos, like, just it wouldn't. Its health bar just stopped going down.
There's a really weird bug that was happening 3 weeks ago as well. But when you invade someone, sometimes even the mobs in their world don't even have animations to them, so they just move around like statues that just float.
Yes, yeah. I saw somebody. So I came into somebody else's world as a phantom to like help them out because I've been doing a lot of the cooperation stuff because I think that's really fun. But yeah, they like bowed and then got stuck halfway and then just slid around. The whole rest.
So Sam's been PvPing a lot with that, but he's been PvPing in the swamp. So there's these giant crabs in the swamp, right? That don't animate. So these giant crabs are just going like this across the fucking swamp. And then all of a sudden you'll just see like this giant amount of damage go off from someone's HP bar because the crab slams down one of its pinchers and just does like half their HP and the guy goes flying back.
That used to happen in World of Warcraft all the time where you'd go to loot something and you'd get locked in loot.
Yeah, you had to log out.
Slide around on one knee for the rest of the game.
That shit was infuriating. That shit. Yeah. And then if there were queues, you would get stuck in the fuck. Man, that was a motherfucker.
It's been really solid so far. Like the frame rate seems to be okay, and like for a game I played like the moment it came out, for like the servers have been all right. There haven't been any login problems. It's been pretty fun. I'm playing it on the I got one of those Xbox Elite controllers, which is like actually really nice.
Welcome
Like,
to
really
the
nice.
elite squad, Adam.
I don't know.
It's the best
what
in
did-
the
okay,
biz.
Get
What
what you
did
pay
you-
for.
What
Yeah,
did you map your
150
What did you
bucks.
map your paddles to?
I
'Cause
took them off.
took-
I don't even
Yeah, I
fucking
took the
use
big
them.
ones off, but I kept the
I don't
little
use
ones.
that shit. Yeah.
I mapped the little guys to the item swap
Down and up items.
down, and then dash like B for the other one, so that I can move both thumbsticks while I'm dashing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's kind of good. That's a good idea.
Yeah,
Yeah, I had used the MLG Pro controller for so long, which is just a shittier version of this, because this is
Sure.
like, I think that one was still $150 back in the day, but it did the same exact thing, and so now that one ended up dying on me, and this one's just, it's the best. It's the fucking best controller out there. 100%.
yeah, I'm digging it.
So there you go.
So that's been pretty fun. I'll probably play some more after Swan Song
There you
because
go. I think I have an Overwatch date with Lyric again, so I gotta play that afterwards. I spent 7 hours playing that game yesterday when I could have played Dark Souls 3 or just continued in Ratchet and Clank or played any other game, and then I just played Overwatch for 7 hours. So
Let's all play Dreadnought together though when that comes out.
we should. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm excited for
I
that.
played it. I hadn't played it before. I played it at PAX South. It was pretty fun. It feels like one of those games where the ship that you play is like really dependent on the kind of style you want to play. Because I played as one of the big slow ones, and I was like, this game sucks. But then I switched to like one of the faster like medics, and I was like, oh, okay, no, I get it now.
Gotta play Corvette,
Awesome.
man.
Yeah.
It's the best in the biz.
I like the sniper frigate too when you got a good guy back there.
Yeah, they're all good. Also, in the newer builds too, you can actually like spec your thing out. Like at PAX, they were able to like change your weapons for the ships and shit.
That's sick.
So you're not just like, you're not a sniper that does the same thing every round. Like there's different types of snipers and different types of weapons and stuff like that.
Cool.
It's really cool. That game's gonna be a lot of fun whenever that comes out.
It is.
Steven, what's going on with you?
Not a whole lot. I have been playing through the ending of Bloodborne because I never finished it. So like I picked it back up after like a 6-month absence because I kind of want to finish it before I dig into Dark Souls 3.
It's a good game.
Oh my god. Playing any of those games until like you're 80% through the game and then he's got claws.
Trying to come back to
And
it.
then picking it up after that.
It's like being clawed by a cat in the middle of your sins, man. You get fucked.
It's brutal. But
Are you doing the
but yeah.
DLC?
I don't think I have it yet. So I don't know. Maybe I might just switch straight over to Dark Souls 3.
Yeah, DLC is the best part of Bloodborne, but it's also the hardest
Really?
part of Bloodborne.
Man, I'm loving the rest of Bloodborne. It's
No,
super
it's. I mean, it's Bloodborne's great, but the DLC is like exceptionally. It's just really like first boss, one of the hardest
Brutal.
bosses in the game. Yeah.
awesome. I will.
What about post-launch life, man? How's that?
Post-launch life is actually really good. So like,
I want to talk. Tell us about your game and how that's going, Steven. Because I finally played it, and I want.
yeah, I was watching some of your streams. So we released an update 1 week after, and like, I mean, I mentioned like 2 or 3 weeks ago or however long ago it was that I was like, oh, I'm kind of disappointed by some of the reviews. They don't necessarily seem to be talking about the game. I understand why people are frustrated about it, but here's why it's kind of frustrating for me. A bunch of those same people came back after the 1 week update, and they were like, oh, this actually, it's kind of nice. Because we did a lot, like we updated the graphics and the shadows. We changed a whole bunch of like stats so that there's not as big of a problem with like peeps vomiting all the time, and janitors are a lot more efficient.
Not in my experience, but that's my
right. Not the game.
I made a
That's a
theme
problem. I want people to throw up all over the place.
Thank you, Jeff. See, Jeff and I, we understand each other. I made a theme park that was West Marches themed, and I filled the entire park with 3 roller coasters. One of them takes 20 minutes to ride on.
Excellent.
They're all. I tried to max out the intensity stat, and it like there's so much barf, just like a sea of vomit.
Yes.
It was so good.
Yeah, so like that's really cool, and we just did some big production planning today, so that was like a fun process for me to participate in. And then like we've got updates planned regularly. I can't necessarily confirm or deny how often they may or may not be occurring, but yeah, we're trying to keep with the momentum that we earned.
Nice.
So that's really good. Like I think people feel strong about the initial reception, like that 1 week after reception. People feel good about that. I think we all know like we got a lot of work to do. We're in early access. We definitely are early access, and we have effort to be made to keep people feeling positive about it. But generally speaking, it's really fun, and it's also like So like, obviously the secret goal that I had for joining Dark Heresy 3 years ago was to eventually be able to say, hey, my game Warhammer 40,000 Eternal Crusade is launched, so you should go play it. But that never materialized for a number of reasons. And so now, finally, at long last, I can announce to a large community, like, hey, I've launched my game, and then I can go to streams. And like, this is the most involved I've ever been in the streaming community since launching a game. It's the most streams that I watch, the most streamers that I know. And it's just so rewarding to like go and like, I watched Dan's Gaming play it for like, 8,000 people. And I'm like, oh my God, please don't hate everything. And he didn't. Like, he had fun. And obviously he also had frustrations because we're early access. But it's also like, I'm sitting there with like a notepad and a pen being like, okay, gotta fix the rotation bug on coasters, got to blah, blah, blah. And just like seeing people live, how they're interacting with your product. It's such a great like trial by fire because you never get that exposure prior to launch, right? Like you can do all the focused play tests you want, but there's just something different about like professional gamers sitting down and playing it on camera where you can see like their face, hear what they're saying without interacting with them at all, and watch what they're doing on screen. It's amazing. It's awesome.
Do you find that you struggle from the like, no, you're doing it wrong feeling a lot, where you're like, it's easier than you're making it seem. You're doing it wrong.
Like sometimes, but not too much. I mean, like obviously I've been in your chat. I've been like, Adam, try doing the thing. Blah, blah, like backseating my own damn game, of course. But like, I see it and I look at it and I'm like, oh God, that thing again. But instead of being like, you're right. But instead of being like, you're doing it wrong, that's not the right designer response, right? The designer response is, we've designed it wrong. We need to make it so that it works the way people are expecting. Like nobody realizes that in order to place mechanisms on coasters, you have to go to the mechanism tab, select the track, and then click the mechanism. So like that's a low-hanging fruit that is on my list of things that we should adjust the flow for in order to be able to make that easier. And it's the kind of feedback you don't get when you do focus tests with like 3 or 5 people.
That's true.
So, yeah, it's super valuable.
Small part of me hopes that no Overwatch dev ever watches my stream, although I know they have. Because I am the saltiest motherfucker in the world when it comes to that game and say some very heinous things about how the design of that game is going.
Yeah.
But whatever. Fuck it. I don't care. So
it's a good policy.
Yeah. Anyways, though, that's the intro. We went a bit long, but whatever. Let's kill someone, Adam.
Whatever.
Okay. So, where were we last time? We were on our way to.
We were just getting ready to leave to go to.
Yeah, you're on your way to a very special planet.
The other planet.
Kamna.
Yeah. So, somewhere out there in the galaxy, there is a planet called Kamna. It's a jungle world. Occupied at some point in kind of the very earliest human history of the sector by some splinter colonists whose like name and colony has long been forgotten, but whose like statuary and kind of ruins and relics still remain on the planet. And Kamna was kind of irrelevant for a really long time. Nobody knows why the people that lived there once disappeared. It's kind of like Roanoke. You know the story of Roanoke. It's like a colony that just kind of vanished, and no one really knows why. Until recently, like I'd say within the last 100 years or so, the swiftly expanding boundaries of the Caliphate of Hoveda.
Are we talking about Roanoke or this planet?
Yeah, no, this planet. Roanoke is a colony. It's an analogy.
North Carolina.
In North Carolina.
I got you.
So this planet, Kamna, to the Hovedan Caliphate, its boundaries spread and kind of absorbed this planet, and they sent some research teams down there to be like, hey, let's go check out this planet that we now own. And that's when they discovered the proliferation of these psychically active crystals, which can be found nowhere else in the sector. And so evidence of these crystals were found at the site of the disappearance of Miss Piani Pick in a seemingly unimportant corner of the University of Anaximander in a dorm room belonging to Kia Tyree, her seemingly genetic exact duplicate, a religious woman with a problem with nightmares about the crew of a certain starship. Though now she finds herself embedded with that crew, headed for that very planet. And before you left at the sort of edges of the sector or of the system space, you're doing your kind of like last minute checks, Higgs on the nav charts and all that. You wanted Eric to send a message, yeah?
Yes, I wanted to reach out to my Hovaden contacts because I'm pursued by the Mubari Zun, right? And like because Kamna, it's Mubari, it's Hovaden controlled, right?
Yes, yeah. Kamna is currently occupied, but there's a very limited amount of people there. It's a smallish planet to begin with. The system has a bunch of other like mineral-rich planets. There's several Hovaden like gas mining businesses there, but Kamna particularly is kind of a no-fly zone for like larger ships, large organizations. You've been there before. At the very tail end of a mission, but they're only now, I think, coming to realize its value. And so there's mostly like scientists and researchers there. Slight military presence, but the Mubari Zun, as you know, Eric, are everywhere. So if you go, especially in Hovaden space, they'll be there waiting for you.
Because I know that they're basically pursuing us. What I want to do is reach out to my Hovaden contacts and see if I have someone who can like get me into laboratory space on Kamna under the radar.
Yeah. Okay, so this role will get you to make a culture Hovader roll. Okay. Now this role isn't going to be to get in to such a place, but to make sure that you know someone in a position to help.
Yeah, exactly.
To sort of set up what their situation is.
Is this a charisma role?
It is indeed a charisma role. Yeah.
Always. Okay, here we go.
Sorry.
Click.
Sorry, you're so uncharismatic.
I got a 7.
Cool. All right.
That's not terrible.
Have you failed a role in the past like 4 or 5 episodes?
Yeah, I have. Like,
okay.
You failed the mental effects save.
Yeah, the most recent role I
was
had.
wondering if you were cheating. Yeah.
He's cheating.
I'm just, I'm sending my scripts over to the RollPlay or the Roll20 folks, aka Adam.
Let's see. So, okay, so you're reaching out to somebody that could be able to get you in. There's a. Let's see. There's a Dr. Ephraim. That's what a good last name from. Ephraim Rashid.
Okay.
Ephraim Rashid, and you went to school with Ephraim. You took some SciTech courses together. Ephraim's a research scientist who originally had plans for developing psychic prosthesis for people with MES whose body had degraded, because that's a thing that sometimes happens with people with MES. Their mind uses up all their body's resources, so atrophy is a big problem. So Dr. Rashid, originally his plan was to create these prosthesis, but at some point near the end of your university experience, he quit abruptly, and you learned, I don't know, like semi-recently, maybe over like a reunion, like a class reunion or something, that he had been brought in for SciTech research on some Hovaden like military project involving these crystals. So they would be a good person to reach out to.
Awesome. Okay, cool. I think I like send him an email in 2 parts. And the first is, I guess like, I had that conversation with Professor Yamamoto related to metadimensional precognition and metadimensional entanglement. And did she eventually like send me some like research papers that other people have done on this topic or whatever?
Yeah, I think she was like, let's share notes. Yeah. You should tell me what you've been thinking. Send me your notes. And we saw off screen maybe why she would be interested in those above and beyond professional curiosity. Because the Mubari Zun got to her before you did. Yep. But yeah, she sent you kind of all the information that she has. Like published. So like,
I'm kind of like, hey, I've recently been a firsthand observer to a very strange phenomenon that I believe to be living proof positive of Gordon's theory of metadimensional entanglement, and I refer to like some of the literature, and I like, have footnotes or whatever, and I say, I think that the key to disentangling these two individuals lies within the crystals on Kamna. And then as like a footnote, I also say, P.S. interesting results when teleporting through subspace with crystals. Must speak about Scream-like after effects.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And you send that message out, and I think we see it. The blinking exchange satellite float by as you jump into drive space.
Yeah.
So let's see how long the trip to Kamna takes.
This is where we get lost in space, and then all of us die.
I was about to say yes. So this is where Higgs throws the roll, and the actual answer to who's leaving the show is everyone.
Everybody.
That's true.
So So can you make a
funny guy.
navigation roll?
And I get a +2, right? Because of the.
You do. Yeah, you have your nav computer.
Okay. Here is it only one roll?
It's two. It's two separate jumps. So it's 404. I guess what's the route that you want to take? Because you need to get from Aniansi to Mualimi. So you've got five or six hexes to jump.
So
and
we
if
can
you
do
wanna
3 at a
stop
time?
along the way. If you want to stop along the way, 306 would be the place to refuel.
Yeah.
And
So I think we go 304, 305.
ooh, actually, you can't refuel in 306.
me check out
Strophios is
307.
currently under like military lockdown by the new prophet. No traffic allowed in or out of that planet.
We're jumping 3 hexes at a time, right? We could go through Gun Hill.
Yeah, we can just go through Gun Hill to then.
Yeah, go to Gunhild and then that makes more sense.
Yeah. So we'll go 404, 405, 6, 7, and then 307, 207, 107.
Okay. So yeah, Gunhild, 407. Gunhild is the sector that Andoni is in. So obviously Andoni's not gonna be able to help you refuel, but there is an exchange fueling station there.
Okay. All right. Here is the first roll to be failed.
Shut up.
What is it? This based off end?
Yeah, it's an intelligence.
Wait, didn't we make the modifications just travel
got the
more
nav
hexes, right? Okay.
And
Alright.
yeah, you go there faster. Each hex takes 2 days instead of 6.
Here's the roll. 11. We did
Damn.
it. And also, that
Damn.
means that we get some back, right? We get fuel back or some shit.
Let me take a look. Let's look at the.
Yeah, and you get to go 5 hexes.
Am I actually
Yeah.
remembering the fucking rules for once? For a thing that we do like once every 20 episodes?
Damn, come on.
Didn't you say that at the very like last or second last episode of Mirror Shades too? You're like, wait, I know the damage code.
That's very true.
All right, let me find the travel rules here. I think that's how it works. It might take you less this time.
We'll see.
So you stop and you refuel. So someone make a note that you have to pay for that, unless you want to spend the time scooping from the local sun. Here we go.
Scooping's free, right?
Scooping is free, but it takes time. You got to get in and out of the sector instead of just bouncing off the edge of it.
Well, I mean, Peony's just trapped in some other universe. I'm sure we've got plenty of time.
Yeah.
No, that's it. It's just a regular roll.
All right.
Do a 7.
Ready for second roll?
Yeah, go for it.
How much is it for refueling for whoever's tracking?
It's like 100 credits a hex or something.
Oh. So not
It's
much.
cheap. Yeah, y'all got lots. Just someone make a note somewhere, and I'll look it up on the break.
All right. Oh my
Oh,
god,
no.
I actually rolled 2 1s. Can I re-roll that?
Yeah,
Well, you're an expert. Just don't do it
There we
again.
go.
much better.
How the hell can you roll a 13 without rolling a 6? That's incredible.
I
Yeah,
mean, I rolled
fine.
2 1s plus 3, man. That's shitty. And then I rolled 2 5s.
That's wild.
All right, so it takes let's see, 2, 6, 8, 10, 12 days. So it is the 30th of April, 3201 when you arrive, and as May approaches in the sector, you enter Hovaden space, and popping out of drive space, you're at the very edge of the Mualimi system. So even its sun is like still a kind of dimly warm bulb at the far end of space. and you start making the trip in system, heading to Kamna. Now, during those 2 weeks, what's it like on the Swan Song? You have this stranger that looks like Piani. Kia, do you mostly like keep to yourself, or do you try to like talk to the other members of the crew? What's that like for you?
Does Kia ever find the photo of her and the pieces of her computer and the media sticks from her room?
I don't know where they would be kept, so I don't know if I find them or not.
Probably they were like on the kitchen table, and like we had to sweep them off quickly when you came aboard.
I mean, I figured all the debris and stuff belonged to you, Eric. Like you're the one that kind of scavenged all this stuff. You're the resident scientist. So.
Yeah. I probably like scooped them and dropped them in a locker in my room under the bed or something like that.
So, what Kia spent a lot of time doing is after going over the journal from Piani, and like not really getting much from it, but one thing that she did take away from it was that maybe I need to do that too. So over a lot of the time, Kia was like basically documenting everything that she remembers, and then actually, but this time instead of just saying, to that man, or there's a name to it, Higgs did this, or I saw this, and Alfarius was the person who, so I spent a lot of time on that.
Sure. So you're present then, and you're around and like watching the other crew go about their business.
Right.
But do you? I guess so. You're just quiet then, mostly, and just like watching and taking notes.
I think if there's like any discussions, if there are none with Higgs, I think that Kia almost tries to avoid Higgs a little bit, still sort of seeming as a threat. And if there's any discussions with Alfarius, they are strictly from a religious perspective, like your soul can be saved too, and it doesn't matter that you're a cyborg, or part machine. And then I think maybe with the most important discussions, there's like a lingering doubt with like if what Eric is setting out to do, or what this task is that we're doing, if it could actually mean like my non-existence, if that makes sense.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm actually really curious about Higgs, like how you are around Kia. Like Kia seems to be avoiding you, or when you're in the same room, she's like writing on her data pad. Do you avoid her? Like, do we get any kind of like?
I think the only time we meet is in the mess hall, and it's kind of just she'll walk in and I'll just kind of like stare at her as she does and just slowly eat. And if she says anything to me, I'll John Barenthal and just answer like very one-wordedly.
Sure.
Unless she asks anything like super in depth, I don't know. That's up to her. But Higgs basically sees it as like Piani, but not, and so he doesn't want to have anything to do with her.
Yeah, and I guess that's sort of what I'm curious about, right? Is that like you have this person on board who looks like someone that it seems to me that Higgs has been feeling anxious about the absence of.
It's more like I described it kind of how I thought, but it's more like he's just sees Piani there, and he's more upset at her because that's all he remembers when he sees her, and he doesn't see it as an individual.
Right, it's like how people sometimes react to like friends or family members that get dementia or like Alzheimer's or something, where they're like, you get that it's not the same person sometimes, but you can't help but be frustrated about it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's really cool. I like that. Yeah, so Higgs is obviously like struggling a little bit, but it seems to me that by trade, Higgs is pretty good at hiding those things. So you just kind of like avoid Kia to kind of keep that at the minimum.
Yeah, avoidance is not the proper term, but he just doesn't he doesn't welcome a conversation.
Right.
Like he's not gonna be a shut-in because it's his fucking ship.
Of course, yeah.
But if she asks him something, it's very like one-worded direct answers, and that's all she gets.
She's a passenger. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. So Alfarius, when the ship stops for however long in your home sector, do you make note of that? Do you observe that fact, or is it something that just kind of like doesn't affect you?
Not really. I think he's just constantly checking news feeds. So he's just checking those local news feeds, I guess.
Yeah.
We're probably so far from Andoni anyway.
Maybe as we fly by Andoni, Higgs is just like, And it's right there. Right there. That's where it
Yeah,
was.
that
How far
little
it is.
orange speck, and okay, we're gone.
Eric says, I remember when we watched that thing get blown up. Oh, no, wait.
I wasn't there for that.
None of that actually
okay.
happens. We want to live.
Cool.
How far does it kill us?
I mean, I think, yeah, like I think Alfarius, the only difference is that like in past times where you were traveling and were coming back to the sector, this would be a time where your compad would, you know, illuminate with messages from friends saying like, welcome home and like, when are you going to be back? And your, you know, messages from your family and stuff. But this time, I think jumping into the system, it's just regular news feeds and business. You. Yeah. So maybe what's not present is maybe more relevant. Cool. Okay. I think that yeah, maybe as you jump out of the system, there is that like you're in the system where Andoni is, and maybe there's an expectation that there'll be some reaction from Alfarius, but we just see you like reading the news. Then maybe before you make the jump, the camera pans across Antaro's pistol, the Andonian like dueling pistol, just like sitting on the desk, because you still have that, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. So you want to, I guess, Kia and Eric, probably you're going to have a conversation before you arrive in Kamna, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess.
Okay. So prior to this conversation, Eric, you get a message from Dr. Rashid, first of all, saying like, Mr. Fredheim, I haven't talked to you in ages. You know, very formal, like,
Yeah.
The question is like, yeah, he says something about like, yes, I'm stationed on Kamna currently. Are you thinking of returning home for the Hajj? It begins so soon. Where does the time go? When was the last time I even spoke to you?
Yeah, it's very like social, whereas my email was entirely like straight business, no even greeting. It's just like, hi, I've been thinking about blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the second message, because you sent two, the second message is a little more incredulous. And it is like, where did you get these crystals? They're very sensitive. You need to be careful with these things. If you have any left over on board your ship, you should definitely turn them over to the authorities. I fear for your safety. You know, sincerely yours, Rashid.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're able to respond again before the ship drops to hyperspace. But is there anything else you want to say, or do you just want to reinforce the message of like, hey,
Yeah,
I need some hands-on time?
You know, now I realize, you know, like I'm not being a good sociable person when he's sociable back to me, and I'm like, oh yes, no, it's been a long time. I very much look forward to the Hajj this year.
How are your wife and/or children?
Yes. Are you still with so and so? Yeah, and then I'm kind of like, don't worry, you know, I'm taking all the proper precautions, you know, I'm following the procedures outlined in, and then, you know, I list some academic publication that has spoken about proper, you know, psionic shielding procedures. Of course, I'm not actually following that.
Sure, but you're aware of the procedures,
Right. And you know, I just kind of like, I think what I'm really trying to do is like seed his interest in these as like a weaponized solution.
definitely.
Because I know that this guy's gonna be like my in. He's potentially gonna get me in and like get me lab access. So I'm like, yes. Did you hear about what planet were we on when I teleported and blew that station?
Vinaya.
Yeah, well, I'm like, you know, did you hear about the event on Vinaya? It was entirely unintended. You know, knowing about their volatility and in a very tough scrape from a bounty hunter who was pursuing us to death. I attempted, you know, to teleport with the crystals and inadvertently caused the effects of what appeared to be something like what is described when resources talk about the Scream. Would really love to speak to you on this subject. You know, yours sincerely,
Yeah.
Mr.
Okay.
Fred Esquire the third, whatever.
Okay. Sure. All right. Good. So you engage further, and then off to drive space.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that maybe a day or so before you're scheduled to arrive in Molimi, yeah, I mean, Eric, it's maybe like middle of the night ship time. People are on sleep watch. Maybe Alfarius is on the bridge. Like you take turns keeping an eye on things because someone on the ship should be awake. So Alfarius is up on the bridge, and Eric and Kia, you like run into each other maybe in the hall or something.
I think Eric's probably got like his data pad, and he's like flipping through, some arcane manuscript on quantum psionic entanglement. And I just sort of stop for a second. I say, "Oh, hello, Kia. How are you?"
I'm well, just waiting for us to reach the destination. Eric, it's funny we ran into this hall. I have a question for you.
Yes. No, it is funny. It's almost like fate.
Perhaps. Eric, my question is simple. I believe I asked you once, but I need to ask you again. I understand you've been researching quite a bit about our little mission here, but what could happen to me?
Oh, well, you see, there's two possible outcomes. And I like punch a couple buttons on my data pad and I bring up one of the papers. I say, Gordon's theory of metadimensional entanglement suggests that, you see, that simply parts of our universe have become entangled with parts of your universe. And as we have a version of you who's from our universe and you are in your universe, either we have become integrated into your universe and thus a small portion of our universe has bled into yours, or you have become integrated into ours and thus a small portion of your universe has become integrated into our universe.
Yes.
And as a result of this, Gordon suggests that if we can somehow bring your psionic resonance in contact with the psionic resonance of the entity from our own universe, aka Piani, then we can cause a harmonization in your two psionic signatures that will cause the universes to suddenly collapse, snapping back into their original locations. You and, of course, Piani as well should retain all of your memories, but instead swap places, and then everything will go back to normal.
Eric, you're obviously a very smart human being. How certain are you that this will work?
Well, there is a competing theory. Vaslav sets out and suggests that, in fact, the scream was not a factor of some sort of psychic disturbance across the galaxy, but instead actually a result of a similar quantum entanglement between our universe and another. And in fact, that when the two universes collapse into their original states, they simultaneously destroy each other, creating a resonant cascade that explodes through the fabric of reality. And it's not so great. It's very exciting.
From a theoretical standpoint.
Yeah.
So you haven't learned anything new that would give you any more confidence that this would not result in a complete universal meltdown?
You see, Gordon's theory is the predominant theory among scientists. Well, hypothesis, really, I should say. But there's very little experimental data. You see, metadimensional entanglement has, until very recently, seemed more like religion to many psionic researchers. I've only come across very few papers in my time.
Well, Eric is telling you this story and talking about the idea of sort of sector-wide destruction being a possibility. You're called. It calls to your memory the ancient story of Sodom and Atlanta. And there's something in there about like the lost civilization of Atlanta, and like how God struck them down for being evil, and that sometimes God decides to hit the reset button, and that these things in recorded history, according to the prophet, hallowed be his name, these things happen sometimes. So,
it's because of those passages, I think, why the idea of someone standing in front of Kia and telling her that this could be a completely catastrophic event doesn't make her want to immediately turn tail and run. That there is like an understanding. So although I don't really say it to Eric, how I'm interpreting it is completely from a religious perspective, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
But then I do say, I think, to Eric, like, Eric, I know we talked just briefly about your beliefs and they do differ from mine, but what if I told you that I thought maybe I am the chosen one for my religion, that I play a larger role in this grand scheme of things, which could ultimately end in the, let's say, reboot of the universe, but could also end in a situation where I have guided evil out and brought good back and restored balance.
Well, it's all very interesting. I'm not a precognitive, so I don't really believe in fate or I don't know. It's all very strange to me. But if it's what you
I
believe-
just like Kia just puts her hand on like Eric's arm and they say, Eric, it's really quite simple. You are a bigger part of this too.
Oh, I don't know about that. I'm just a researcher and a mechanic.
Without your help, without what you know and what you're doing, we can't make the voyage we need to make.
Well, I guess I'll do my best.
Thank you, Eric.
You're welcome.
Awesome. Okay. So, yeah, I think that the two of you, you go back to your rooms or go back to doing what you were doing, and a kind of quiet falls over the ship. And we, before we go to commercial, we see it, the Swan Song, kind of isolated out in the strange luminescence of drive space, moving towards whatever fate awaits it. When we fade to black. Let's take our break here. Yeah.
All right, cool. We'll take our first break. We'll come back and go in the second hour here of RollPlay's Swan Song's 50th episode. We'll be right back, guys. Don't go anywhere. See you then. Thanks, everyone, once again for being here. Hopefully you guys are enjoying